Now that we're 5 episodes into this series, I think it's safe to say that Creature Commandos is a great start to the DCU. I'm pretty sure I've stated this in my previous videos of the Creature Commando series, but I don't think it's in James Gunn's DNA to miss, because every single episode from episode 1 to episode 2 to episode 3 and 4 and now 5, I think all of these 5 episodes are heat. I think all of these 5 episodes are very great in actually introducing us to the wider world of the DCU, and I'm so happy that the DCU is not grounded, because I was actually scared that James Gunn would not dip his toes into the wider obscure world of DCU, but I have been proven wrong again, and it's just so good to see a lot of these characters that you wouldn't necessarily see in the Nolan trilogy, even though the Nolan trilogy is 10 out of 10 still to this day. You wouldn't necessarily see in the trash, disgusting DCEU, and a lot of these characters that, in my honest opinion, I think most TV producers, most movie producers would not want to incorporate any of these characters into their own universes, because they just seem so far-fetched. Characters like Clayface, characters like Dr. Phosphorus, characters like Eric Frankenstein, characters like Cersei, all of these characters, even Weasel, even G.I. Robot, I'm sorry, the entire cast of Creature Commandos, whether they are the prime characters, the featured characters, the supporting characters, the antagonists, or the other characters, I'm pretty sure every single character in the Creature Commando series would not see the light of day if a different producer that's not James Gunn would be adapting these characters into these stories. So I'm very happy in seeing all of these many different unique people, and I'm just happy as a DC fan. But let me stop rambling and let me actually tell you why the episode 5 cements Creature Commandos as a very great start to the DCU in introducing us into these characters. And episode 5 starts off where episode 4 left off, because the Creature Commandos, Bride, Dr. Phosphorus, Nina Mazursky, and Weasel are all en route to Apokolips, because remember, that vision that Cersei had, that she shared with Amanda Waller, had Amanda Waller sweating, it had Amanda Waller hyperventilating, and Amanda Waller is so scared, and in my honest opinion, she is not trying to have that terrible nightmare fueled future happen, so she wants to stop it by killing Princess Ilana on the spot. She wants to prevent that from happening. So that's why the Creature Commandos are en route to Apokolips. So when they now reach Apokolips, we see them get greeted by Alexei, and they tell Alexei, they lie to Alexei saying, oh, we just want to protect Princess Ilana, and we're just back here because a new quote-unquote threat has arrived. And Alexei, you could feel his frustration, because he is basically saying, for years we have not had any problems, for years we have not had any of these threats, but ever since we now did a deal with the Americans, we are now starting to see all of these new threats every single day. It's piling up. So you could feel Alexei's frustration, but Alexei, he reluctantly gets the Creature Commandos into this truck so they can all start to drive to the place Princess Ilana is driving at. But this is interrupted because Rick Flag Sr. and Eric Frankenstein, at the same time, they are stalking this lady called Dr. McPherson. And Dr. McPherson, I did not really touch upon her in my last video, but Dr. McPherson, she is this teacher or this professor that is so invested with the Themyscirians, and that's why she comes into the same interrogation room that Amanda Waller was interrogating Cersei, to help be a liaison of some sort with Amanda Waller and with Cersei because of her study of the Themyscirians. But we see something about Dr. McPherson is weird, because when Rick Flag Sr. and Eric Frankenstein was stalking Dr. McPherson, we see that she's acting weird. She's acting off. So this causes Rick Flag Sr. and Eric Frankenstein to try to sneak into Dr. McPherson's house while she's at school so that they can look for more clues. But before we get to that, we see a flashback of Eric Frankenstein, and we see the aftermath of his first fight with the Bride when he killed the creator of the Bride and of Eric Frankenstein. But we see that after he gets beaten, after he gets battered and he's bloodied, he washes away in this river. And in my honest opinion, this is where the episode makes me hate Eric Frankenstein, but you can also try to see his motivations, because when he's washed up on this shore, we see a dog now coming to try to lick Eric Frankenstein, but that dog is actually owned by this lady, this old blind lady called Bogdana. And Bogdana, she is gypsy, so she helps Eric Frankenstein to basically recuperate himself. She heals Eric Frankenstein, and she has this lotion and this ointment that is kind of magical, that is actually passed down with her own family from generations to generations, and she helps Eric Frankenstein nurse himself back into health. And we see that Eric Frankenstein and this lady, they are starting to build a bond, even though Eric Frankenstein at first was trying to push her away, because Eric Frankenstein, in my honest opinion, he has no social skills. This nigga does not know how to talk to anybody. But we see Eric eventually start to warm up to Bogdana, and their scenes together was so heartwarming because Bogdana felt like a mother. Bogdana felt like someone who genuinely cared about Eric Frankenstein. But the thing with Bogdana is that she has a fear of abandonment, because throughout her life she has been living alone in this little small shack in the woods. So she does not want Eric Frankenstein to leave. She does not want to be lonely. So you can sympathize with her. You can understand her motives, because she doesn't want to be lonely. So she's trying her best to basically keep Eric Frankenstein happy. But Eric Frankenstein eventually wants to leave. But before I get to that part, we have to continue back to the current day of Eric Frankenstein and Rick Flag Sr., because they are now inside Dr. McPherson's house. They are searching around. They now see something that confirms a suspicion I had when I watched the episode 4 of this series, that Dr. McPherson, she felt off when she was describing Cersei's visions. She was basically telling Amanda Waller that Cersei's visions are fact, even though when you know Cersei from the comics, Cersei is mischievous, Cersei lies a lot, Cersei is a villain. So even though she is magical, even though she has actual powers that can see the future, you should never believe something that comes out of Cersei's mouth. So this gets confirmed when we see that the deceased body they found, that is Dr. McPherson. And we now start to realize, damn, who the fuck was teaching them kids at school then? If Dr. McPherson is dead, who is impersonating Dr. McPherson? So we now see Eric Frankenstein and Rick Flag Sr., they attempt to hide in the room, and this little funny scene that Eric Frankenstein, he didn't want to hide. He just has no social skills. He is just a weird retard, in my honest opinion. But the imposter, Dr. McPherson, now reaches home. Then we see something that, in my honest opinion, it gave me a sigh of relief, because I saw rumors that Clayface was actually Princess Ilana, and I hope to God, I pray to God that that wasn't true, because it was very disturbing trying to realize Clayface and Rick Flag fucked. I did not want to see that in my TV show, so it's good seeing that Clayface is actually impersonating Dr. McPherson, because Dr. McPherson / Clayface comes in the house, and this was pretty funny when he was starting to play Mortal Kombat and starting to just goof around. But Eric Frankenstein and Rick Flag Sr. were trying to sneakily sneak past Clayface, but remember, Clayface, he is so powerful that even if he's not looking in your direction, he knows you're there. So this now ends up in a fight that was so bloody that, in my honest opinion, Rick Flag Sr. got his ass beat. Clayface was going to town on Rick Flag Sr. He even used the infamous and the iconic Bane breaking Batman's back scene, and man, Rick Flag Sr. was just getting two-piece, he was getting ragdolled, he was just getting beaten up. And even Eric Frankenstein, as strong as he is, was getting his ass beat as well. Then coincidentally, as this was happening, we see that the Creature Commandos, when they're en route to Princess Alana gets that call from Rick Flag, and Rick Flag warned Princess Alana that they are trying to kill her. So we see that Alexei takes many detours. He is trying to not get them to that location. Then when Alexei is about to drive them to this location, to this setup that they can get killed or captured, we see a very cool scene that I really liked from Dr. Phosphorus, because the Creature Commandos start to fight the guards. They start to fight the police of Apokolips because Princess Alana wants them all killed. And we see the bride, she uses one of the guards' gauntlets as weapons, as guns, and she is just shooting every single soldier in her sight. And then the coolest scene that I saw in this fight was Dr. Phosphorus, and man, this was so cool because he was basically toe-to-toe with a tank, and he is so powerful that a tank's force cannot stop him. So he now unzips his pants, no diddy. Then he is walking straight to the tank, and his power is so hot that he is just burning the tank from the inside out. But he is having his middle finger stuck in the air, and he is just flicking them off. And in my honest opinion, that was a cool scene. But we see that the Commandos are eventually separated and eventually defeated. So we'll see in the next episode what will happen to them. Will they be captured? Will they be killed? But back to the Clayface fight, Clayface nearly kills Eric Frankenstein, but Eric Frankenstein, he manages to go to a circuit box and electrocute Clayface. But we know that Clayface did not die here because James Gunn just announced that Clayface will be getting his own movie. So I really like that Clayface is going to return in the DCU. But back to Eric Frankenstein's backstory, and this is where, in my honest opinion, this made me hate Eric Frankenstein, because he did not need to do this. But you can also kind of understand Eric Frankenstein's motivation. And now back to Bogdana. Bogdana, she is seeing that Eric Frankenstein is trying to pack his stuff and leave. Eric Frankenstein, he's still hell-bent on trying to find the bride and trying to make the bride love him. But Bogdana, she is crying. She is telling Eric Frankenstein she does not love you. The bride will never love you the way she's acting towards you. She is proving that she doesn't want you. But Eric Frankenstein, he's so delusional and he does not care. So he's trying to leave. But the thing is, he locked Bogdana's dog outside because he states this, that he does not want the dog to see what will happen next. So as Bogdana is crying, she is basically telling him she does not want to be alone. She doesn't want to feel lonely again. Then Eric Frankenstein now says that don't worry, you will never be alone. And man, he kills her. He strikes her upon the head with some big item. I don't know what it was, but he basically kills Bogdana to prevent her from being alone again. And in my honest opinion, this made me hate Eric Frankenstein, but it also made me understand his motives of killing her, because he doesn't want to see her be alone again. And she was so nice to him that when he leaves, he will know that in his heart that she will be devastated. So it's kind of a fucked up way of helping her not being alone. But I was like, damn, bro, you didn't need to kill her, man. But man, that episode, in my honest opinion, was heat. It seems that James Gunn, he is incapable of missing. It's not in his DNA, as I keep saying. I don't know when he will miss, but I hope that time will never come, in my honest opinion, because the DCU is cooking. But that's the end of the video. I'm out. Peace.